Oh, hello, beautiful people. We are back. We are on episode 6 of our discussions with Majora, uh, reading her book, Reclaiming Your Community. So, if you have not been able to check the link in my bio, or if you've missed any of the other episodes, feel free to jump into the link in my bio. There's a YouTube link there that you can see. I'm trying to bring you on in. Welcome to anyone joining us. I know the Super Bowl is on, so I appreciate you being here with us. Why, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
Really
Another
good.
day.
Girl, you look adorable. I love your hair.
Thank you. I was, you debated, but sometimes you got to go with it and put it in people's faces. This is what she looks like. You know, this is what's happening. I
Hi,
am
Jesse.
excited.
Hi, Chantal. Hey.
We've got all our people in here. So today I think it would be fantastic. There's so many people in here that if you have any love or any comments to share from Majora, feel free to throw them in the chat. Also, any questions would be amazing because today we're getting into some juicy stuff. This I think is really cool and personal. It's sort of the inside of like the shady part of success. I'm gonna go ahead and say.
Shady. Oh,
It
that's
is. It's
scandalous.
amazing
It is
though,
kinda. I'll be the
because
first to
people always
agree.
talk about the most beautiful parts, and when we hear someone's story, you're like, look at all these great things that I'm doing, and people rarely tell us what's actually happening behind the scenes. And oh my goodness. So we are starting with chapter 15. And the thing is, Major, for your reference, I am reading this before we get on. So I don't know I never know what happens next. Right? I'm not there yet. I'm reading it and I'm just getting excited before we get on here. But for anyone who's reading here, the title of chapter 13, we sort of get into Majora's been working on a variety of different projects with so many people. She's given us the ins and outs of what's going on here. And one of the most amazing, well, it starts off here and it's like, no matter what, if you are leading in your career, family, community, classroom, corporation, whatever, someone is going to notice you and they will not like it, no matter what. And I think we have this beautiful idea, this fairy tale where everyone cheers for us. Every single person in the room gets up and cheers. And that's actually not
Yeah.
true. And as I've just met you, you tell me these things and I haven't experienced them. But seeing the figures in here of how nasty people
Yeah.
are is amazing. Like they made
I
caricatures of you.
know. You gotta I have to tell you, I appreciated the effort. I did. I mean, come on. Look at that. I mean,
Somebody was an artist.
somebody went
Yeah, they
in.
did.
Went in. So you gotta now if they only put that much effort into something that was going to produce something awesome.
And I mean, and so given that, right? So you do all of these statistics. What you do is you have a space. You are a real estate developer. You are looking at these spaces and you're like, this space would be great for this kind of thing. And you're hoping that somebody will go ahead and fill that out. You're using your groups to gather all of this data from the
Yeah,
community saying, what kind of things would you like to see here? And people are saying they would like to see some
yeah,
nice things. They would like to have things that they can enjoy. But what's amazing is the same data that you're getting, right? The only stat I know is that when people are upset, they talk about it 5 times more than when they're happy. I've heard that before and
yes,
I'm like, that is true. You
yeah,
hear bad things so much more.
yeah.
Um,
So
but
true.
this isn't coming from your own head or your own desire to have coffee here.
Well, I mean, I wanted someplace nice for myself. I mean, I'm not mad at that, and I think it's important that we build the kind of things that make us feel good about where we are. Yeah, I wanted a nice place to have a cup of coffee that wasn't, my own living room. but I also heard from my neighbors that folks were leaving their community to experience these things, whether it was to just have whether it was a cafe or a coffee shop or whatever, it didn't matter. But they weren't staying here. They were literally taking their money, their beautiful presence, and they were positioning it, positioning it in someone else's community to enrich it. And I thought that is one of the reasons why our communities are deemed less desirable. In part, we're taking ourselves out of them. And I thought we could do something about that.
Yeah, for those of you in the chat, are you traveling to a different borough to get nice things? Like is this the truth? I also wanted to know that from the people. You go into a lot of explanation. Really what's happening is you use the term self gentrification. Sorry, that's my light gone. You use the term self gentrification to explain this idea of that
Although
people.
that's really pretty light, I have to say. You're
This one here, think we
broadening.
should stay backlit.
Yeah.
um okay,
Good.
we're here,
Oh no,
but see, i
actually,
have i
go,
have this.
it's only when you're really close.
I
Maybe
know.
you should move it. Maybe you should turn it back on.
We're gonna do
Yeah.
this. So I wanted to talk about like the self gentrification a bit, and you use that term on purpose
Yeah.
in trying to share this idea of, if we want nice things, if we want those coffee shops, if we want a doggy daycare, if we want a yoga studio, we should do those things ourselves. And as I just finished, the interaction you have with, I forget which chapter it is, but with the young lady where she says the problem is the term self gentrification,
Yeah.
and you're like, what does that mean to you? And she's like, people like you are going out, getting an education, and then coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, so I'm not supposed to come
Yeah.
back? What should I do? And that to me was a very striking feeling. And I mean, personally for me, right? Of not wanting to be the smart kid in class, even though I was.
Mm.
Like, I know that I acted out because I had friends who didn't really read books. They did other things. So I know I was acting out to like be
Right.
bad to fit in.
Right.
And I don't think we talk about that enough, of how hard it is to be the smart kid, and how hard it is to go to school and figure out, and that judgment of when you do come
Right.
back, because people are like, it must have not been worth anything if you're back here.
Yeah, and so that's actually, I actually hadn't thought about it that way, but if you take what it was, and the person who said this to me was a card carrying member of the nonprofit industrial complex, like led a community organization that was all about helping the poor folks and giving them trying to get some of them, frankly, to escape the neighborhood in every single way, because that's what you do. It's like the bright ones go and you support them to go, and the other ones you just take care of them because they're never really going to account to anything anyway, period. And this person was definitely in that camp. But since they only looked at our community, as sort of like a bucket full of problems, anybody who was outside of that, who couldn't be quote unquote helped in a very particular way that philanthropy paid for and supported, to her, excuse me, maybe it's a boy, maybe it's a,
To
I don't know.
them.
It just, I should not do that. I called everybody they in my book, just to protect their sometimes stupidity. But anyway, but yeah, it was just that there was just, they were all in on this idea that there's only one type of person that should be supported in our communities. And I found that to be really challenging, but pervasive, unfortunately, very pervasive. Because again, communities like ours with problems that are not really meant to be solved, but somebody else is going to make some money off of that, or at the very least feel superior to those of us in low status communities.
And perhaps, well, you talk about a bit of that there. We talk about the white supremacy, just this idea, this social monster that lives above us and has made us feel a bit of this way. So sorry as I find this next quote. And but what you but in making these spaces, also what it read like here is when you did your research, you found out that coffee and tech were these spaces that were launching and also trying to give people jobs and give people not only spaces to go, but you were also trying to help them. You've been doing a bunch of work of training people on the
Yep.
ground and trying to facilitate their moving into other spaces in the world. And being that right now, as where I am in the book, I'm in the opening of the Boogie Down Grind when it moves into its space. So if we're speaking back at this point, is there anything that you would change at that time? I know the what we're talking about goes into more of investing in our own, and you finally go all in on yourself. Birch Coffee is no longer in the conversation, so you're like, I'm have to do this shop by myself. But as you're moving through these and thinking back, is there anything that you would change?
No, no, probably everything if I stopped to think about it. I mean, but that's the horrible thing. It's
Yeah.
just, we would see, like, so clearly what the problem, was. It was, we didn't have these opportunities for us to connect with each other and to see that, our community wasn't this like big cauldron of problems that never really could be solved. And so we were like, we believe in the promise of our community and our people. So yeah, we wanted to build something that made people feel good about themselves and to show that we could make it happen. I think what I probably would have done, but actually having to go back a lot further, I wish I'd actually taken classes in business development. I mean,
Hmm.
to really understand like how money moves, or even and in real estate development. I do wish I'd been a little more enlightened about how it actually really works, because I was being moved incredibly, just by seeing my community suffer in ways that sometimes I don't think they knew they were suffering.
Yeah.
But then you look at the stats and you're like, that's not good.
Yeah.
But again, if we so internalize the way that we were being treated and presented, then yeah, people expected it. And I feel like I think we put the cart before the horse in some cases, because we were just like, we were from the ready, fire, aim, full of planning. And
Yeah.
but yeah, I looking back on it, and yeah, yeah, I wish I like, found the right partners, and so that we could go in it in a way that was actually going to be a lot less, frankly, stress on us.
That's so interesting. As I listen to you and think back on this, I think a bit of us in our communities and a lot of the conversation always comes from this place of great
Mm-hmm.
emotion, of helping the community, and
Yep.
of your passion that comes from your heart and these things you were born to do. And it is actually very encouraging and enlightening, um, and reaffirming for you to say that we still have things to learn.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a business behind all of that, particularly when it comes to helping people. I think that sometimes we register it as so passionate and emotional that we remove the business from it, and we don't do the business of it, and we don't understand the
Yep.
business, and a bit of it seems to be of another
It
world
is.
for.
And if you're not growing up and steeped in it, it is another world. And that has been used against us a lot. A lot. Almost every day of our lives, that much. And it's kind of like, I feel it now as I'm moving further into real estate development. It's like I'm very long on vision, very short on balance sheet. um, and the ideas are there, but I don't have, like, the kind of personal guarantees, or the kind of assets where banks are going to look at me and go, let's invest in that one. And I certainly don't have a rich uncle in the business who's going to be like, yes, let's support this chick. And and because of all the systemic bias that has happened, from get-go, that the lack of generational wealth that so many of us don't get a chance to experience, and
Mm-hmm.
which also
Mm-hmm.
comes with access and to opportunities to even just get in the game. No, I didn't have any of that. And I feel like I'm really excited that at the very least, I get to talk about it. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't start, from this elevated position. I feel very blessed that I was able to do everything that I've done, but I just, like, I think it would be so kind of cool to just take what I did, as a white guy, just like that. Just
Yeah. Just throw it in a bucket and see how differently
to
it would have
see,
worked.
yeah,
Yeah.
like how would it have
Yeah.
worked? Where would I be now? I just find that interesting.
Yeah, I think I know the conversation of, white privilege, I like to call it like general
Hmm.
entitlement, is feels a bit old, but as you said that, I don't think that I've personally acknowledged it in that way. Although I just haven't said it out loud, right? We think you're a rich person who has rich parents and it kind of ends there. But it's kind of like, yeah, your uncle and your cousin might work here, and then like it's just all of this stuff that you might have learned or overheard at the kitchen
Yeah,
table because there are people who are having conversations that might not scare you later because your uncle owns a house and your cousin was able to do it. I think that's a conversation we don't have enough,
right.
you know
Yep, 100%.
nor do we have the information. And I know you said it's later in the book where you tell me that you're going to tell me about OPM, other people's money, which I'm incredibly interested. I'm always interested in other people's money for
Yeah,
investing purposes. Um, and I think that is going to get funny and interesting. But also, you talk here a bit about, in that section you were talking about, you knew about these loans that had 0% interest at some point, and it just struck me too at that point where we understand the numbers. We go on Zillow, you're like, this thing would
right.
cost this much. We Google things, but we don't understand the facilities in order to get there.
Yeah,
So a bit of the access that we don't have, or the
right.
information that's not being
Yeah.
filtered to us.
It was so ironic to me that the day we were protested, when those nice people made such really interesting artwork
Yeah.
about me and protested. We were hosting that what do you call it, that a workshop about it, about that and other opportunities for people in our community to actually have access to capital
Mm-hmm.
and to make the money with their own homes, and like, how do you do that? And we had some of that information and we were willing to share it, and yet it was considered like, you can't do that. And the same person who accused me of, and rightfully so, she accused me of getting an education and coming back to my own for
Right, right.
guilty. You know what? Guilty as charged. That's what I did. I do it again. Encourage people to do it, as a matter of fact. But yeah, these same, that person and some of their, adorable friends, were real quick, to either pick up a sign or invite protesters to come and talk to me. And it was just like, for a 0% interest loan, they could literally save, someone from losing their home, or
Right,
help someone start a
right,
business. And I'm the problem.
right.
Okay.
Um, that that statement just felt like so crabs in a barrel to me.
Oh yeah.
It was so sad to read. I felt it viscerally. And it just, it feels like it can't be any other way. And I felt that way too. It's like, well, no one, the people aren't like you, and like, you are. We're actually the same, me and
Yes.
you. But you also had a really funny way of describing them, which I'm going to use in my real life. Cave people, citizens against virtually
Yeah,
everything. I love that
I did not
so
make that,
much.
but I love it. And everybody who hears it, who is at a point in their lives when they're like trying to do a new thing, they know exactly who that person
The cave
is
person. Yes.
now. And it's true. It's kind of like and I think people need to ask themselves this, like when you are like so all in on somebody who's trying to do something and your immediate reaction is to like slap them down, especially if you're from a low status community. We really have to start asking ourselves, what is that about?
Yeah.
Like, why would I not be just like, hey, something new is going on there. How let me just lean in a
Yeah.
little bit more. Even if I don't understand, but let me just not just immediately dismiss this person or attack this person. And we need to do that, because you might be that person that someone else wants to smack around. It's
Oof.
not nice.
Yeah. And I think that, and that is something I think if I were truly president and could change the world, there's like so much psych
There
counseling.
will be. You will be.
I may be, right? There's so much psych counseling we need as children. You see children in our own communities. Actually, we do the same thing. We're it's I in my life and my perception have internalized it and interpreted it as my own survival skills.
Mm.
Unfortunately, you know, and it's taken me a lot to break out of them. I've had instances where I go back to those survival skills, whether it's how what my face reads like or what I'm ready to do or where my head is at. And really, Madra, I've even recently had to be like, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to react that way to the
Mhm.
world. I know how, and I was made to do. I was like formatted, unfortunately, to do that. I was grown in it, but I don't want
Right.
to, you know.
But that's, I mean, I think that's where we're
Yeah.
coming from. And so we're from a low status community, or in a in a body, that reads as not as the primary dominant culture. We're expected, I think, on some level, to not see ourselves as, coming from a place of abundance.
Yeah.
We're just not. So we do, instead of like being open to feeling and seeing that, wait, there's something that we can do here that can add more value to everything that we're doing. We just like hold it close because we think that that's all there ever is.
Yeah.
And I heard a really funny, well, was it funny? It's actually tragic. But there was like early in the days when we were working, and there was a group that started at some point in one of the other neighborhoods that we were working with, about what they actually wanted to do, even though we knew that we were being poisoned by all of the truck traffic and building more waste facilities in our community. There was one group in a very poor neighborhood, also of color, that actually started some kind of thing about save the waste facilities, because they feared that if the neighborhood got better, then they would be pushed out.
Wow.
So take the poison,
To keep our
because
rent
that's better.
down.
Yeah. And I was just like, I mean, I hope that was just an urban legend, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And I've said that in my own understanding of the world. You know, I not called my own landlord when things were dripping or like messed up, because I just didn't want him in my building.
Wow.
And like I hadn't gotten my lease and it hadn't gone up, and I was just like avoiding him because it's gonna go up when they talk to you. And that's just me being honest
Yeah.
about like just being a human being. So yeah, people don't people will lay low, I think,
Oh,
and just try to make it by, unfortunately.
100% there. Unfortunately, I wish to God I could say, like, literally in that moment in my life right now. But yeah.
Well, um, given that, and wait, I did like the title of the last chapter that I read, so I have to remember what it is. So, what is the
Yeah.
problem? And at the end of this, you just go into the problem is that we're not retaining everything that we've said. We're not retaining our talent, and we are assigning poverty and these negative characteristics as attributes of low status communities when they're not. We're simply
Yeah.
underserved, and probably undereducated, not given the resources that we need, and sort of bulldozed over. And at the end of it, which I feel like has turned into my inside joke with you, is we like nice
Uh-huh.
things too. And,
This is true. Yeah.
and
But that's the thing. It's just you go found now. I'm reading one of my own lines, and so hello, glassful gal. It's been a while. Nice to see you. But what if we made investments in the future, wealth generating capacity of low status community members, like actual investments, like when you make an investment, which is different than a donation, right? An investment, you are expecting some kind of return on that investment. If you're making a donation, a contribution, that's more of like, we're just like dealing with it to make your life a little bit better.
mm-hmm.
We're not expecting a return. Like a return on the investment could be, anything for, as I go on, this includes projects such as housing and business development that address aspirations for their lives, complete with lifestyle infrastructure such as nice bars, cafes, restaurants, as well as home ownership and local business development support for people who desire them. That's not often what we see happening in the low status communities that are all over this country, and that's the really hard part. That I feel like, why is that like such a problem? Why is that like the hardest thing for people to like? Do we lack that much imagination that we can't even see that if we made investments in folks so that they can develop their own communities on their own, we be paid back as a society?
Yeah. Yeah. I would assume there's a lot of fear in that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think so too.
Unfortunately, and what you're saying and what you've done as you talk about Boogie Down opening up those doors, and I've seen it too. I have to be 1,000% honest with you. There's a lot of people I would have never met
Yeah,
if I didn't go there and be able to sit with them and talk to them, because they come in and they're like, yeah, I come here. There aren't a lot of other places for us to go.
exactly.
So I might meet them
Right.
at Boogie Down, but I might not see them anywhere else because they're also on their way out of the city.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that has been amazing in watching all of that happen and
Yeah.
being there. But one thing that I do say, I do think, I wonder it about New York because I'm not from here. There are so many possibilities here. Where I'm from, I was literally told I'm from Rhode Island. And when I look down my street, I can see just up the hill. I can't see down the road. I can't see far. Like I can't see
Uh,
anything. And this one man I met on the bus, he was from, we were traveling back to Providence, and he said the problem with people from where we're from is they actually can't see far.
mm,
They don't have any experience in seeing
mm,
further than right down the
yeah.
street. And this is my judgment about New York. Sometimes, and because you're from here, what I'll say, this is my judgment not being from here. Sometimes being here, people have assumed they've already made it. They're
Huh.
just here.
Huh.
Like it's waiting water. They don't, where else would you go? You're already in New York. There's nowhere else to go. They're just like waiting water.
Huh. But do you feel like that it's just by association that they've made it, or that they've actually made it because they've done something?
No, I think that there's more access here. You can pretend to make it here.
Huh.
You can pretend all you want.
Huh.
Because if you go down to Canal Street and you buy yourself a nice belt and you can find yourself a secondhand coat, you know what I mean? You get the right shoes that are going to last you for the year, and you go to the right place when your income tax check just came back.
Yeah.
It's just more possible here. I have to be fully honest here. To
Huh.
I think it's easier to just stay at this level, to try to just wade.
Wait, as
Like
as in like
just
fake
float.
it, like fake it till you
Yeah,
make it kind of thing, or
just float.
uh,
Why you're already here. You're already in New York City, you know, like
but
you're already here. It's
that's
the melting pot. I see famous people. I know where they are. It's
yeah.
it's a I think in big cities it can be strange, like it's always weird to me because there are so many
Uh,
opportunities here.
Huh.
You can go to
Yeah.
school, you can get your 2 year for free at this point. If you're a New York resident, you know, you get your associate's degree, you can go to community college. There are ways and pathways. I think that we're afraid of trying too hard, because if you're already here and you try, what happens is I think it's a fear of failure, right? It's
Yeah.
like I went after it, like nothing really happened. Here I am. Now I have this supposed debt. Everyone's just afraid of that. It's such a, like you say, a cyclical conversation. I think that you point out so many times here, and it's very interesting because while you show us the opportunity, both by highlighting them, highlighting people. Like I love the lip bar. I just went there and I buy my nephews all their gifts at the lip bar because it's Brown owned and it's a bookstore, and I think that that is amazing and I should support it.
Yeah.
You tell us all these other places. You tell us about the Peruvian people. I forget the names, but they started the first doggy daycare in the Bronx.
Yeah.
You've given us all of these
David
names of these,
Renfro, Bronx
yeah,
Sparks. Yes.
Brown Sparks. So there's so much going on here. But I think that as hard as it is to get through all of that gray screen, I would like to say I see you doing it, at the very least.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So
Like,
totally appreciate you.
likewise, my dear.
So I have you over 2 minutes, but is there anything else that you would like us to know that is going on aside from our Wednesday open mics at Boogie Down
I
Ground?
am. I think that's about it. I,
Okay.
well, look, if we're there, um, just stay tuned. Next week we'll talk about like the season that we're doing at Bronxlandia, which I'm very excited about. And then yes, but definitely come on out to your beautiful open mic, and I'll see you there this Wednesday.
Absolutely. I have some dried herbs for you.
Yay!
I've got your basil, girl. Don't worry.
I'm so excited. Okay, great. Make a meal this week. James, my husband, does all the cooking, but I actually have a recipe that I want to try that calls for literally a cup of dried herbs. So,
Okay. We'll text because I need to know
okay,
exactly what you need.
cool. Yeah,
Okay.
you can say anything you want to, and it's gonna be great. All right, mwah.
Mwah.
I love you.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for watching and joining. I'll see you Wednesday, Madra.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.